Okay, we'll start tonight's City of Olivet's Planning and Community Design Commission for October 17th, 2024 to order. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Member Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
Member Daniel Rosenberg. Absent. Member Laura Ragsdale.
Present.
Member Petrie Powell.
Present.
Secretary Sam Wallach, present. Vice Chairman Brian Lewis.
Present.
And Chairman Robert Jagel.
Present. Let it also be known that City Council Liaison Mayor Missy Waldman is in attendance, making sure there wasn't anything I didn't know. As well as our staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, City of Olivet's Director of Planning Community Development Department, Don Doty, Senior Planner, and Jack Carswell, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Carlos, I'm not missing anybody online, am I?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So we appreciate everybody who's in attendance, one person. So thank you. Carlos, do we have anybody online?
No, sir.
So I'm just going to be speaking to you. So, we have an agenda type system. We go through agenda items one by one. If you do have any public comments, we take public comments at the beginning for items that aren't on the agenda. But if you have a public comment that's for a specific agenda item, we ask that you wait until that agenda item is there, and there'll be a moment in that period to do it. And how we typically do it, staff will give a presentation. We'll have some question and answers amongst commission members. And then we'll typically bring on the petitioner and kind of go over things as well. And then afterwards, then we ask for public comments. I think you're related to a petition, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the record, we do ask that any public comments be limited to no more than 3 minutes to be respectful of everybody's time, and to make sure everybody's opinion gets heard, which wouldn't be a problem tonight. All right, so we will move on. Carlos, did I miss anything?
No, Chairman, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and we don't have to go over kind of the Zoom instructions because nobody's online, and so we'll move on to new business. Item A, 9504 Old Bonham Road.
Chairman, I'm just going to address a couple of the review processes that we get through,
Good.
even though we're doing a final plat. But typically through the commission, which oversees Chapter 400, our zoning regulations, Chapter 425, which is our community design regulations. Typically, you'll see two primary types of reviews: a site plan review and community design review. All new homes are required to go through community design review. It's a offshoot of when we used to have a community design review board or an architectural review board. That was merged with the commission back in the 80s and 90s, I believe. And the commission does architectural review of new home petitions. When a new home is proposed in a lot that is substandard with the underlying zoning district, then the code requires that the commission also do what we call a site plan review. When you do a site plan review, you look not only at the proposed development and the lot and everything that's going on within, but also consider the impacts that are going on that would happen out of those boundaries. And that's the purpose of site plan review. We have two petitions tonight. One of them is going to require a site plan review in its process. The other petition is a plat, and that's governed by a different different chapter in our municipal ordinance. And plats usually go through a preliminary plat level. Then there are subdivision improvement plans, and then a final plat. The preliminary plat level is when the commission is reviewing the proposed subdividing of the property and whether it's in the best interest of the city and also under the city's values, recommendations, ordinances, and regulations, and all that. Usually gives the commission the greatest strength on how it will act to place conditions and even to deny a plat if it can justify the reasons that it's inconsistent with the city's principles, codes, values, and things of that nature. After that, once a preliminary plat is approved, there's generally a site improvement plans. Those are usually reviewed administratively. That's going to be how the roads are, the road details, the grading, MSD, utilities, and things, and they generally do not come to the commission for review. It's kind of almost like a permit process of that. And then thirdly, there is the final plat. And the final plat is just the written legal document that gets recorded with the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds. And it's generally a legal document, and all the commission is doing during the final plat process is authorizing the city mayor and clerk to sign the document in there. It is somewhat an administrative process, but that goes through the council, well, through this commission and through the council to authorize the signatories to place their signatures on there. In there. But at that point, it's been assumed that all the other conditions and improvements that were placed in the preliminary plat are already guaranteed, are part of the process. Or so this is just a document that gets recorded so that the lots become official, they can be traded, sold, and of that nature. And that's what we will have tonight. So
Great.
that's okay. If I can just kind of go over here, we have now today the final subdivision plat for 9504 Old Bonham Road. This item was before the commission at its September meeting and went back all the way back to August when it was introduced. It is a 2-lot subdivision of the property along Old Bonham Road, and what you see here is the legal instrument, of course, that would be recorded in the county in there. It doesn't show the contours, it doesn't show the houses, it doesn't show trees, it doesn't show any improvements. It is just showing the boundaries, the legal boundaries of the property. In this case, a dedication that's being given to the city that runs parallel here with Old Bonham Road and other utility easements, and then the underlying zoning district setbacks in there. So that's what's before the commission tonight. Be glad to answer any specific questions. If the commission acts on the petition as submitted, the next step would be forwarding it to the city council, which acts in the form of an ordinance.
Carlos, the only question I have, is this actually a motion or is it a recommendation that we're giving?
The way the code is written, you're actually approving
You're
this
approving.
motion.
Okay, just making sure.
No, it's a very good question, but that's what the code says, even though the commission's advising the council.
Great. Go ahead.
As I read it in the code, is that there has to be, I'm not sure if I got this right, a mile within what land use and what's around the property, not just the property itself.
Like a vicinity map?
Vicinity map, and is it complied with that?
Yeah, it was in the, let me get that for you, just 1 second here. Good question. And there, it's in the improvement plans, and I'm going to open those for you here. I thought I had them already set up. That's part of his details. In there, and no, I don't have that
Okay.
in place in this, and it might be in the preliminary plat.
It may, yeah, it probably will be
Um,
preliminary. I was just curious because in looking at the regular plat or the final plat, it clearly doesn't go to the north side of the road a mile, so.
Yeah, and the final plat won't have that detail
Right.
of a description, and it'll have, here we go. And I apologize, Ender, that I didn't catch
That's
it.
all right.
It's right here.
Yep. Okay. Because it's directly across, this plat is directly across where that new house is being built.
Yeah, good point. All right, any other further discussions on this? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Brad.
Motion to approve a petition for a 2-lot final subdivision plot for the property currently addressed as 9504 Old Bonham Road, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated October 17th, 2024, subject to any staff recommendations or conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
On that motion to approve, Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell,
Approved.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgel,
Approved.
and the motion passes unanimously 6-0. And we will get this item forwarded to the city council for their final approvals.
All right. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new business item number 3B, which is 1124 Magnet Drive, single family home. Carlos?
Okay, that one I'm gonna allow Mr. Carswell to present.
Oh,
But
sorry.
bear with me, I need to find a where I placed our agenda here. 1 second. Sorry about that, guys.
Trying to move this along, Carlos. Just joking.
All right, Mr. Croswell, my apologies. Thank you, sir.
So before you tonight is 1124 Magnet Drive, new single family home. This new single family home was subject to site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management review. As you can see, as the picture with the red arrow, the lot has been demolished, and that demo actually occurred back in 2021. It is zoned single family residential, and site plan review is required due to the lot deficiencies. So to be exempt from site plan review, your lot must be 15,000 square feet or greater, have a lot depth of 150 feet and a lot width of 100 feet. The subject property only has a lot area of 6,099 square feet, a lot depth of 122 feet, and a lot width of 50 feet. So notifications, staff did not provide notifications to the adjacent property. It's within that timely manner. So I just wanted to, but they have all been sent out earlier now. So they hopefully they've all been given that notification for the property. The street conditions, these are sorry, I'm going through the primary staff concerns. The street conditions is that the street is private and it does not meet the city's minimum standards. There's just limited access on Magnet Drive, only one entry and exit, and that is onto the very busy Olive Boulevard. The comp plan is in the 2006 comprehensive plan. It was located within the city center area, and we'll kind of go into that background information here. But some other primary concerns were there was some issues with that stood out with massing of the proposed home being compared to the neighboring properties. The garage is actually a protruding forward facing garage, and within the design guidelines, that's something that's discouraged. However, that is what has been seen throughout the neighborhood or subdivision of having these forward facing garages, but this one protrudes, I think, about roughly 5 to 6 feet out in front of the home. The masonry wrap is that the exterior masonry ends at the edges rather than wrapping around onto the side elevation. So that's just another comment based off of the community design. There's a lack of concerns with lack of elevation articulation represented on the left and right elevations, which you can see right there underneath that redevelopment design guideline table was one of the elevations, which is pretty similar. They're pretty the same on both sides, really. And then that there was one concern with stormwater. Is this where the stormwater pit is placed in the rear yard? Is it, they labeled it as gravel infiltration trench B, and it's located within the center of the backyard, and staff was suggesting that possibly relocating that maybe past the rear yard setback so that the future homeowner can actually, if they wanted to add any improvements or do any changes, that they have the full scale backyard. In terms of, kind of talked already about those community design aspects that stood out. Let me see what we got here too. Just the background for it was that, I wanted to just let you know also that the front yard setback is set at 25 feet. The side yard setback is 5 feet, which is 10% of that 50 lot width. And then the rear setback is 24.40 feet, which is 20% of that lot depth, which is that 122. And that's obviously a unique lot configuration due to the deficiencies. And for the background of Magnet Drive is that it was situated in the heart of city center that was seen in the 2006 comp plan, and that comp plan outlined key revitalization strategies that were aimed at enhancing the city's center sense of place. The plan emphasizes the development of the neighborhood of mixed use center, the introduction of higher density housing, and the creation of continuous street grid to improve the connectivity both within and around city center. So that was what was stated within the 2006 comp plan. Pertaining to the massing of the adjacent homes, 1120 Magnet Drive, which is located to the south or to the right of the property, underwent an addition and interior remodel back in 2017 and a fence modification in 2020. And then 1128 Magnet Drive, which is located to the north or the left, underwent garage modifications many years ago, an interior remodel in 2023. There's also a new house that was just built on Magnet, I think a few years back, that has kind of the same front facing protruding garage that opposite side of the street. Yep. Also, just in summary, in terms of lot area, lot depth, and lot width, that the staff's opinion is that the reasonable steps have been taken to minimize those negative effects that are proposed to the development upon the surrounding built and natural environment, as well as upon the subject site itself. But then we can go into that community design aspect too. I kind of been jumping around, but for massing, staff noted that their concerns were pertaining to the massing of the proposed home compared to the neighboring homes, and staff has provided the petitioner with a previous example of how the roof could be revised to limit the amount of mass. Within your staff report, farther on page 6 and 7, we kind of break that down in terms of what the guidelines and what the guidelines illustrate compared to an example or compared to what was provided through this actual submission. In terms of the roofing concerns do go hand in hand or in tandem with the massing, and that staff has concerns pertaining to the massing and how the roof could be altered to limit the overall towering effect towards those neighboring homes, and that the building height of the proposed home is roughly 29.125 feet below is that example of that roof and how that actually has been done by other designs to limit the massing of the roof. We already talked about the garage. It's just something that was discouraged throughout the community design guidelines. And then to address the issue, the guidelines note to illustrate the front entry garages should not extend beyond the front entry of the building elevation. We already talked about that the home across the street features a front entry protruding garage. However, this home was completed before the adoption of the city's design guidelines. For elevation articulation, we noted that there were concerns with the left and right elevations. The materials we're talking about, the masonry, I think they are all good in terms of that 50% masonry. It's just that they don't wrap around the side elevations, at least that 5 feet that was noted in the community design guidelines. Everything with site grading and top of foundation appears to be to meet the intent and spirit of the design. And then the notes about stormwater management, they have 2 gravel infiltration pits. One is located in the front yard and one is located in the rear yard. We already stated the concerns about the one that's located in the rear yard just based off of access to the whole backyard. And then in terms of tree preservation, there was no arborist report that was required due to the property actually being pre-demolished in 2021. So we didn't get that information. And the petitioner, however, did provide a landscape plan or plant schedule within their submission, kind of addressing the lack of foliage and trees that are located on the property currently. You also see within your packet on page 8 that there's a picture that shows what Magnet Drive looked prior to the demolition and the trees that were existing, and it provides the context that you guys can see how that property looked before the demolition of it. And then the last thing that we will note is that we're doing this new addition to the staff reports. That is kind of the 2024 comprehensive plan update analysis. So we're going to go through each of the 5 categories and then relate the agenda item to the comprehensive plan. So how does it relate to the livable built environment is that it encourages the high quality housing that's diverse in terms of type and price, which was one of the goals of the livable built environment section. And given its location within city center, the home is located centrally within Olivet and located adjacent to Olive Boulevard, and Magnet Drive is a private street. So this is focusing on that there's no sidewalks or turnarounds at the end of Magnet Drive. Magnet Drive is still not the ideal street just because it is private. While the right of way is sufficient, the city does not have the history of construction on the street or its underlying base. The street also lacks proper cul-de-sac, which limits mobility for the city's current fire vehicles. And the street also only has 1 entrance and exit. In terms of economic development from the comprehensive plan, it mostly focuses on commercial, industrial, and business development along the Olive Corridor and the business parks. And an objective of the comp plan is to expand the city's tax base. The new lots should contribute to the growth of the tax base. Community identity, the new home should not impede the community's vision on diversity. Though it does affect the density and attainable housing proposed for city center development vision. The natural resources in the environmental sustainability chapter focuses on that the mature trees were removed from the site prior to the demolition or the submission of the new home. Utilizing the county aerials, there is a visible tree canopy loss. The petitioner, however, did submit that landscape plan. And then in terms of strategic growth and development, that the redevelopment on the lot does not impede, but does hamper the vision effects for the city center redevelopment vision. So that's everything that I have. If there's any questions, I can answer it. You should have site plan, building plans in front of you, as well as the report, of course.
I'm curious, you've all raised multiple concerns, and I see you're even asking us to defer, which is, but did you address those with the builder itself, and what was the response? I'm kind of curious, like, you've addressed it, they said no, and it's before us, or are you still working through that?
Well, we addressed those concerns and then we did not receive a response we received a response, but no new plans or revisions. That they were just, I think their idea was to come before the commission, get notes, see how everything is, and then continue the
The
process from there.
response was not a no, but more of a wait, see.
I think the petitioner could probably speak better
Okay.
or more on that, but from my understanding is that they were notified about all of the concerns and then we gave them a date to respond, but then we put them on the meeting.
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but here we are again with smaller, modest, single-story ranch style homes predominantly on this street. And it seems to me that given the footprint of this particular lot, that this would have been a good opportunity for a house that wasn't a two-story house, which would alleviate the massing issue and make a slightly larger ranch style house that would fit within, the look and feel of the existing houses. I mean, it looks very nice in our, elevations here, but of course, they don't show the other houses on either side. I just don't know at what point in the process can we say, oh, well, the massing, if you bring this down to a single family, a single story house, even with nice articulation, you can fit within the confines of what's there. And we meet other goals in the general plan, including housing for seniors to stay in place. There's plenty of room on this lot for it to go back further, according to the, boundaries, setback boundaries. So I guess I'm just struggling with at what point when we say massing is a problem, what are we doing about it? To me, just saying, well, it's nice because it has articulation, but it is a two-story house in a sea of single story houses. And it seems to me that could have been a good opportunity to put in a single story house to go along and still infuse it with all the articulation. I'm just trying to figure out where it is that we're pushing and what we're saying when we say, oh, you need to address the massing. Well, the first thing I'd say is make it a one story. That'd be the first thing I'd say. Don't make it a two-story. Doesn't need to be two-story to get the square footages that you need to make it financially feasible. So that was one point. I assume that the reason why the garage is front facing is because of the width of the lot. Okay, that's, and then on the sides, because it's so close to the other houses, typically do we not care as much that there's not much articulation when it's they're so close together like that? Or kind of what's the standard here that we're supposed to be looking for?
You want me- We've had different opinions on that. And I think on the, like the articulation or the windows. And if I remember, I'm not sure how long ago, but I remember Michael Saunders talking about it. Like the houses are so close together. If you put a window there, you're just looking into the neighbor's house, that it doesn't make sense. And people wouldn't necessarily see that. Now, of course, that was also with similar houses, similar size houses. The fact that this is listed as kind of, I'm not sure if you would call this a 1.5 story or a 2-story, but you're going to have a lot more vertical, portions above the roof of the other houses. But that's where they have the windows too, so that to me makes it a little bit better. I am intrigued by, what you're talking about with, keeping it, as a ranch style, but I'm also kind of thinking about the impact to the developer that's trying to do this. Is there a limited market? Is there, we don't want to necessarily handcuff somebody if this is going to be the trend for this street. But on the flip side, you have the concerns about, do we want this to be part of the city center? But we have to make a decision and figure out how to do that rather than hold this street hostage.
Yeah, I would argue that it's a good conversation to have because I feel the same pain. But I think it's almost an agenda topic in itself, but not on a specific house. I think we struggle
Yeah.
when it's on one house. Why are we using that as a example versus something else? Because I can totally agree with your concept, but I almost wonder if we make an agenda on the next session, say we want to spend time talking about that, or if we have time tonight, talk about it in more conceptual versus this house directly.
And
But I understand why you're bringing up this house directly. I would like to see street views though, if that's possible, Carlos, too. Like a Google Street View to see what it does.
That was also, I wanted to see street views.
Because it says like the one across the street is new.
Right.
And it's that way. They're all going.
The street view though, I think goes, the most recent one is 2015.
Oh,
So I think it's prior to the demolition of the home, but you will still be able to see, you know, the neighboring properties.
you'll see the street.
Yeah,
see the
Yeah.
other stories.
Yeah. We'll get an idea what the house looked like before.
Right, it's the second house in, so it's this house here.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll note that the street, I believe contains 3 different subdivisions in here. So you'll probably see 3 different styles of homes in there. I believe the ones on the east side were all part of the same subdivision. On this side, the lots are somewhat different in sizes, and then over time, there were some that have been redeveloped in there. And then towards the end of the cul-de-sac, there's it looks like the lots were split and 2 homes were built in there, probably in the 80s or 70s in there. But you'll see predominantly along this eastern side of Magnet, the houses are simple ranches. I don't know if they are slabs. They look pretty close in there. And for the most part, I don't know if,
I know one of those homes there, and it's not a slab, they have a basement.
okay,
If you can go down, keep going down the street, I think it'd be good, just to see, maybe.
Across the street is pretty.
yeah,
That's what built.
Oh, and do you mind panning to the west, turning a little bit?
yeah, I was gonna go all the way to the end and then turn around.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that all right? Or
Perfect. That's great.
then going back and forth? Then there's 2 houses at the end of this end, right behind the brush areas here. And then that's Indian Meadows back here. And then-
The home also does have a lower level plan indicated within the building construction plans.
For the new.
Yep, for the new one, yes.
I think they were talking about the existing. Yeah, yeah.
Now, these are the ones on the west. And I think the lots are like
Bigger.
more 75 feet than as
Yeah.
opposed to 50 feet. And then the one that has the newer house, I believe that was a lot split between these 2 lots, giving up half and half and creating a new lot in between. That was done 2002, 2006. I think it was before the guidelines were adopted in 2008. The largest house, I think, on the street is this one where they did an addition here. In here, and you can see it mimics the 1.5 story aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. And Jack, your issue with the massing, you said you had some ideas to reduce the massing?
There's just like Carlos and I were discussing that, there's other ways of you can soften the overall height of the roof.
What is?
Like for instance,
I'll
on,
show them on your staff report, you'll have copies, and those are online here. This is what's is proposed, the illustration, the streetscape that's been provided. And then this is from the guidelines under page 13, where it's recommended and don't do this type of thing. And what we're trying to avoid is just that overshadowing appearance
Yeah.
in there. And then as you go through the guidelines in there, again, it talks about, when you're doing something like that, to look at other routes that have been submitted is that they cut the ends of the roof. So at least it gives the appearance of acknowledging that there's going to be a drop in elevation.
But with the
And
1.5 story, you're going to be cutting into the actual living space of that second floor.
Not necessarily. I understand what you're saying, but if you look at their plans and you look at, here's the upper level,
Yeah, yeah.
this truss area here, that's just a attic truss. In there. It depends on to the extent.
Oh, I
that-
see what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're, so kind of a hip or,
I've known them as the term Dutch, but
Dutch,
I
yeah.
don't think that that is the right term in there. I think Dutch is more like when they're doing the farm
yeah, yeah,
house type.
I get you. But you're not talking all the way to the bottom, but to
No.
the roof line.
It's
which is
just a
gonna be in the
gesture
middle.
recognizing that there's a drop in elevation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it.
Chairman, if you don't mind, and I know that the commission said to have a discussion topic down the road, but I think it's a valid point that Ms. Powell brings into play. And I think some of it is two things I know. The city only has one single family residential district, and that's applied north of Olive, south of Olive, and to pretty much all a majority of the subdivisions in the city of Olivet. So we provide this one zoning to fit all.
Right.
And what happens with that, and we've struggled with this in the past, is that I guess from somebody submitting in is they're complying with the numerical regulations of the district. So the terms of why are these houses coming in that are this height is because the code lets them in there. They're compliant with code. Now, on the other end, the commission has the authority to do this architectural review in there. Now, whether the commission can say, no, this has to be single family, I'm not sure. I think the commission has a lot of attitude, not attitude,
Latitude.
latitude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Latitude in that process, as long as they can justify it. No, I'm sorry on the comment. It was not, they made any, like, so like, but you do, so long as you can ground it, to why that decision was made. For Jack and I and Don, we go on the basis of what actions we know that the commission has taken into the past. So in this case, when this came in, I would look at it as like it is a two-story house, but it's not like the two-story house we saw last month in there. They've made attempts to make it a 1.5 in there, and they meet all the numerical requirements that are permitted. And it may be something that if the commission is looking to make the housing or control some of the housing for the purposes of, being able to grow, agent in place to make a housing attainable, that we look at some of these residential areas and reconsider the regulations that are in place, given the lot sizes. A lot of communities, Cree Core, they have about 5 or 6 single-family residential zoning districts, all to keep in proportion with the lot sizes that are within those districts. So I guess long story short, so in this case, this is a 7,000 square foot lot. We're applying the same standards that we're applying in a 20,000 square foot lot. And as long as they're within those numbers, in theory, that they're okay. And when they look up that information in there, they're seeing, hey, I can build up to 35 feet, okay, and that should be okay. So I'm going to build up to 35 feet. While that is true, the code allows them to. The community design component says, yes, you can build up to 35 feet, but it may not be the 35 feet that you're expecting. We want to see you taking into consideration aspects that you're trying to minimize the height depending on what's adjacent to it. We've struggled with this before when we had developments in Cherry Tree and Harvest Lane and in the Hilltop area in there, Chevy Chase also, on how to tackle those, and we just haven't had a good answer. And every time we think, well, let's consider multiple districts, then there are some merits of just having one single family district too in there. On the garage orientation, I'll put it in there. The code permits a front entry garage, and we have several throughout the community in there, but what the code tries to minimize is how far that garage face extends beyond the principal plane of the building and there. And yes, across the street. And as you can see here in the examples from page 19, you know, if you can control your garage and make it an intricate part of that front elevation and not a protrusion, that's what the goal is here. And that's what we're bringing to your attention in there. And then the same thing with the heights. And I think the one thing that I'll note, and the developer is here and will be able to talk about this because they have a very good architect in there. Two-dimensionally, I mean, playing with just a two-dimension, I can make that look pretty massive. But the reality is that this line back here is way towards the back. It's a pinnacle like this in there. So as the house is, because they're holding down the height, the house is getting deeper, and therefore your angle is up there. So it looks like it's a box, but in theory, you know, it's three-dimensional. Now, I'm not going to say that resolves it. I still think that there's opportunities here to incorporate something to minimize that. But keep in mind that you're looking at a two-dimension aspect of this and not seeing it three-dimensionally. And whether there would be something different, I'm not sure. I mean, there's not a 3D perspective or something to give you some guidance on.
Like this. I think, yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. It's not as deep.
So you're saying that garage is gonna stick out like a sore thumb?
The goal of the guidelines is to try to minimize it as much as possible.
Okay.
Other things that the commission can take a look at, and not here to design, but is, you know, and what we've done in the past is, you know, the front entry porch becomes, you know, while the wall is not there, this becomes the roof and the eave come forward, and then it looks like it's at the same plane. And there, as opposed to kind of hiding behind it.
Yeah. Any other discussions with Carlos or Jack?
There was a question earlier about basements and looking at the base, or not that it really matters, but it looks like almost everything has a basement on the street. There are a few houses that don't.
Okay, good. Thanks. Okay, so I think now is a good time to bring on the petitioner. We ask that when you come to the podium, make sure that it's turned on, like there's a mic there. And then state name and address for the record. Business is fine.
There we go. Hi, guys. My name is Chris Fisher. I'm with Fisher and Fritchell. Our address is 695 Trade Center Boulevard in Chesterfield. So I guess I would just jump in by trying to address some of the comments and some of the things that have come up in this discussion. And I guess, Mr. Lewis, I'd probably start with your point. And, you know, for reasons that I don't really know and I don't think really matter at this point in time, you know, we only received comments back on our review 7 days ago. Actually, I think it was 8 days ago. I apologize. So for whatever reason, I think staff kind of got wrapped up in conferences or whatever. And so we didn't really receive comments in a timely fashion to be able to respond to them in preparation for this meeting. So I understand that snafu, it happens, it's water under the bridge. But my standpoint was, you know, I would at least like to be on the agenda so that we can have this discussion. I understand that you guys have obligations to your residents. I do think that by the ordinance, we are within the notification window for a public meeting. But that said, you know, I just wanted to make our case. And in the worst case scenario, if you guys don't feel comfortable voting this evening, I would at least like to have the opportunity to hash these comments out. So if we do have to come back in front of you guys, we can kind of rubber stamp it and have an understanding of what we're going to be doing going forward. Right. So that was my only agenda in making sure that we were on the agenda this evening. So that's the background behind that. I did want to address Ms. Powell's comment as well regarding, you know, single story homes, et cetera, et cetera. And then something Carlos brought up, you know, we're not building this house on spec. We're building this house for a customer. And we're not electing to do this square footage. We're not electing to do this plan because we can. We're electing to do it because that's what our customer wants us to do. And in this particular case, our customer has 2 young kids and they're a multi-generational family as well, in that the wife is bringing her parents in to live with them. In the vast majority of these infill communities, that's your typical lifestyle. It's younger families that are looking for the school district. Oftentimes they are looking for that multifamily type of element where they can take care of an aging parent or something like that. And that lifestyle, quite frankly, just lends itself to a 1.5 or a 2-story type of environment. If you look at all the infill new development in this town, whether that's Kirkwood, Webster, Shrewsbury, Glendale, whatever, it is almost uniformly 1.5 and 2 stories. That's just what the market wants. Have we, do we have some larger ranch plans? Yes, but my smallest ranch plan in this collection, this collection is made for a 50-foot lot, right? So all of our homes conform to that. The smallest ranch plan I have in that collection is 65 feet deep. So that's 20 feet deeper than this house. And trying to put that on a 125-foot deep lot, it's going to dramatically increase your impervious area. And then B, it's going to significantly chew into your rear yard. And C, you're making a much more dramatic impact on the lifestyle of your neighbors. If they're sitting out on their deck and they have another 20 feet of house behind them. So that's certainly going to dominate their view from their rear yard a lot more than a 2-story would. So those were the 2 things that I kind of wanted to address that came out of that discussion, for whatever that's worth. So with regard to some of the other comments, that's our material palette, by the way, if it matters. But with regard to some of the other comments, I guess I would start with the garage. I do understand the design guidelines. We did try to limit the protrusion of the garage. I believe ours is 6 foot. I do understand that the home across the street on 117 Magnet Drive was built before the design guidelines. But it does contribute to neighborhood context. And their projection is certainly significantly larger than ours. That's this here. So their projection is probably at least 10 feet in front of the front door, perhaps more. And then outside of this specific neighborhood, I did a little driving around when we first started this project, and Hilltop Lane has a couple new builds on it. This is 1136 Hilltop. That garage also projects out in front of the front door, probably at least 5 feet. And then this is 1132 Hilltop. And really you see the same thing there. Now, you can make the contention that building out over that garage and bringing the front of that house forward helps minimize the protrusion element of that front entry garage. However, I would contend that you're kind of working at cross purposes there, because while it does limit the protrusion of the garage, it also increases the bulkiness and the massing of the home, right? Because you're contributing that much more 2-story element to the home. Whereas we're stepped back by virtue of being a 1.5 stories, we're stepped back on that first floor element. So it's kind of a rob Peter to pay Paul type of scenario, right? We did elect to put a carriage style door with the glass and the hardware on the front to help improve that streetscape presentation. So that's our standpoint on the garage. With regard to the roof, and I think this is probably one of the biggest discussion points. If you look at page 4 of the staff report, and you look at that bottom left-hand column where it says recommended, okay? No, we don't have a hip roof because being a 1.5 stories, we can't hip it down to the first floor like it's shown here.
Right.
But I still think what we were trying to do with this roof line was much more in keeping with this picture than trying to portray a true 2-story element, in the sense that roof line planes out down to the first floor plate line. And this second floor element looks more like a dormer than it really does a true 2nd-story projection. So just from that standpoint, that's kind of the reason that me and my customers chose this elevation, was we thought that would actually be a little bit more palatable to you guys than doing a true 2-story element. Now, that said, in the intervening time, since we did get comments, I did prepare, you could call it an alternate proposal, but really kind of it's more of a discussion point. And I wanted to kind of get this in your hands to see if this is more what you were looking for. So in this scenario, what we played around with was pulling the roof line back to the plate line of the second floor, right? And I changed up elevations here because when you did that element that previously looked like a dormer on the front, it just doesn't scale right, and it looks like a pimple on the front of the house. So I switched up to an elevation that has a little bit of a bigger gable in there to kind of help fill in that space. So you know that addresses the comment about there being so much roof there. But relative to the idea of overshadowing the adjacent home, in my personal opinion, I don't know that that's better. But if it appeases you guys or you think it does something for you, I've talked to my client about this and they'd be willing to entertain that. But again, I'm just not sure that the previous attempt doesn't fit the bill better relative to what we're trying to accomplish with overshadowing the neighbors and whatnot. But I'll defer to you guys on that.
Okay, so on the new drawing, I think looks massively bigger than
That's what
first
I
drawing.
thought.
The other thing that because at first when I saw the design, I didn't know, is this a 2-story or is this just a fake dormer on the roof? And then looking at the floor plans, I noticed that dormer is for a bathroom.
Yes, correct.
And I'm wondering if the house would look less bulky mass wise if that either dormer went away completely or was minimized with a much smaller window that made it look like maybe it was only a 1-story house. I don't know if that was anything you guys thought of.
I would like that much plain roof. I kind of like the door.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
saying that you
Yeah.
would still have either no dormer or a smaller dormer with a smaller window so that it has the illusion of a 1-story house. That
What-
was,
you need the space there to capture the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you could really physically make it any smaller. I mean, I suppose you could try to relocate the bathroom and get rid of it, but again, I would be concerned that the house would start to look pretty plain at that point.
Yeah.
I think that element of a faux dormer really kind of fills in that roof and gives it some presence.
What about the idea of just clipping the corners of the roof like?
So the Dutch hip thing, I
Yeah.
think you can do that on the alternate proposal that we talked about. I don't know that it really works on this one where the roof planes out.
Not all the way down to the bottom, but. you
Right.
know, to clip it. Yeah. Yeah. Or do it like this, let's say, where's the other drawing? I'm kind of, that's the new drawing. I'm kind of thinking about the old one. Yeah, sorry, guys.
I think I can't draw it on here.
I think I know what you're talking about. We've seen it on a number of these other houses. It might be on that. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, kind of similar.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's like a little Dutch hip on the gable ends.
Yeah.
It is a Dutch hip. You're thinking of a gambrel. A gambrel is the Dutch
kinda like
farm style
that,
roof.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And this is what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think we would have any objection to that. If that solves an issue for you guys, I don't think we have any objection.
I like it better than the new proposed, because I think I agree that it makes it,
I thought it did too.
yeah, it makes it look bigger.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Sam, did you?
I was just gonna reiterate that I don't have an issue with the gable on the front. The way it is, I think it's the overshadowing of the neighboring properties with the very top of the roof on both sides. If we could reduce that at all, that would be preferable for me.
Where is it?
Just what you're talking
Oh,
about right here.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
What about the 6 foot though? Where we landed on that?
For the garage.
The garage, yeah.
Are we asking for the porch kind of, I think you're, Carlos, I think you're talking about kind of pulling a awning or an awning out to make on with the porch. It keeps the level, right? It's not really the house coming forward, but it keeps the line level, right? And I think your comment was that it maybe extends the front, extends the second part of the house forward, and I think it does, but
Well, I was referring more to an instance like this. where you're actually building.
oh, I don't think we're talking about that.
I mean, I think the porch roof right now is an 812, isn't it?
I think that's what we're talking about doing.
So if you, I would not want to plane it out to full 6 feet because I think it, quite frankly, look ridiculous. It would just be this massive front porch that has no context whatsoever. But if you wanted me to plane it out like another 2 feet, so, you know, you get a visual offset of 4 foot instead of 6, I think we could probably pull that off.
And it's this right here, I would assume, is this piece here coming outward.
Where you at, Carlos? No, that's a gable end.
That,
I'm talking about where
Yeah.
it planes out there from the face of that false dormer, where it planes out down to the front porch. I think that's an 812 right now.
okay,
I
so
think
yeah,
that's
you're coming down,
612 or something and plane it out a little bit further. So, you know, that porch comes out, planes out a little bit better to that front entry garage.
Should be a change in roof line,
It'd be a change pitch.
change in pitch, kind of at that part.
Yeah.
Would that look?
So instead of an 812, you're coming down off that, you know, you're coming down off the face of that false gable, maybe it's 612 or 712
Okay.
instead of an 8. I mean, we're only talking about coming out like another 2 feet. So I don't think that, you know, I don't think that would be that dramatic at the end of the day.
Okay.
So like I said, that could reduce the visual protrusion of that garage from 6 foot to 4 foot, and, you know, maybe we split the baby, so to speak.
Yeah. I got a question on the sides.
Yes, I meant to get to that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, thinking of adding a window.
Yeah,
You know.
this is something that I anticipated, and I tried to talk my homeowners into it, but they kind of wanted to see what happened, and I told them this was going to happen. So
Yeah.
what I'm proposing that we do is we add, and you guys can actually see it in that alternate drawing if you want, if you can just kind of transpose that in your mind, but I'm proposing that we add 3 2020 picture windows in the breakfast room. I'm proposing that we add a 2030 window with tempered glass above the master bath commode. I'm proposing that we add, I think my other one was a 4010 transom above the tub shower unit in the second floor hall bath. And that allows us to maintain our privacy. You know, we don't have any windows in bedrooms or anything facing neighbors. They're all held up high, but it gives us a little bit more natural light and it gives a little bit of articulation to the side elevations. So that would be my proposal to you guys. There is certainly a concern for privacy there with these houses being so close together. So
Exactly.
You say no windows facing bedrooms. I guess I'm confused. Isn't this one bedroom window right here?
yes,
Okay. Oh, yeah, second floor, I agree, but there's only one floor. There's only one bedroom on the first floor.
correct, the master, right.
Okay.
Which is why I'm not adding any windows to that.
Yeah, all right.
The only thing I could think of is a window at the above where the bed would be, but you're kind of covering it by moving it, you know, with the bathroom,
Right.
right?
And a lot of people that seems to be a love or hate thing. Either
Yeah,
people
yeah.
really like those windows over the bed or they really hate them. I guess it depends on how much light bothers you in the morning. Yeah.
And you're putting those other lights above the brick. Yeah, that's exactly where I thought that
Yeah.
would be good. Yeah, I like it.
And then with regard to the masonry wrap, that was honestly just an oversight on our part and our architectural partner's part. So
So you'll wrap it?
yeah, we'll wrap it.
How far will you go?
You guys want me to do 5? I don't want to do 5, but I'll do 5.
typically what Chairman, what we've seen is, especially with the garage protrusion here, is that this piece right here, and again, you can probably articulate this a little bit better, you know, that in terms of looking at it from a value perspective and appearance, that being masonry as part of the projection as opposed to siding just kind of like mitigates why the protrusion is going out. Not to say, I believe, you know, masonry and siding can be just as compatible
Yeah.
in there, but this is just, you know, hey, we're going to stick out 6 feet, and in lieu for that 6 feet, we'll give you masonry on that, you know, on this projection piece.
So if I do masonry returns on the two side walls and the garage return wall, can I do two?
Yeah,
foot?
what we looked at, so, you know, this piece here is right in this area
Uh-huh.
here. So, you know,
Yep.
they can't see it. And then on the ends here, and here, typically we have like about a 1 foot turnaround, just so it doesn't look like a curtain.
Right. Yeah, we do, a lot of municipalities would do two. So I could do 2 foot on the side walls and the garage return wall.
What did we do on that house across the street?
The
117. I don't think that has anything.
I think it wraps around.
Yeah, bear with me 1 second here.
Oh, it does on the garage return wall. It does not on the side.
Yeah, here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the depth either goes underneath this eave here.
Yeah, that might be where they break it.
Yeah.
And then there's some siding till it hits the plane of the door. But that projection is masonry on there. Now, I don't believe, and again, this was before we had the guidelines in place. Like here, you won't see a wraparound. It looks like a simple curtain.
Well, I could go with the 2 feet and the.
On the garage return wall and on the sidewalls.
How's everybody else feel about that? I agree. Good. Or somebody want 3?
I think he wanted 5. is
It
what
was
I
the
heard.
same. What I thought
He
he
started
wanted.
with the number
He
5.
started He's bidding against himself.
It's a weird battle of argument. He started 5. We'll start with 7.
All right. Any other comments that we haven't addressed already?
The one items, and we kind of talked about, was the, you know, it is a private street and it's very narrow and there's no curb in there, and it's a pretty dense neighborhood. So from the staff level, you know, at the time of permitting, that they have some type of parking and drop-off plan in place. Because there is no cul-de-sac or turnaround for
Yeah.
construction vehicles, which leads that any 3-point turn is going to be either on somebody else's property or on the commercial property, which, you know, can be done, but it's not fair. And they're not going to back out into Olive in reverse.
Right.
So it's going to be a tough site.
We're gonna have to get
Real
cute
good
with
solution.
logistics. There's no doubt about it. But you know, we've done it before. You know, we get in a lot of these neighborhoods where we've got 30-foot wide lots, and you know, you get down to the last one, and trying to figure out a way to get trusses and everything in there is always a challenge. But we figured it out.
And being that it is a private street, there is a trust that maintains that street in there, so they work closely with them. And you know, the concern all the time with private streets is, I mean, street repair is costly, and whether the current street is at a high level or subpar level, there is going to be finger pointing of, well, now this is happening, or cracks that never happened before. So, you know,
Exactly.
there be some dialogue and some agreements on there with the association before.
Yeah, I would
Construction
talk to the
studies.
association. I would document what it looked like ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
because
Yep.
In our neighborhood, yeah, we got construction going on and everybody's blaming.
Yeah.
The contractor.
Always happens.
Yeah.
Always. Yep. Very familiar with it.
There was one other thing, and it was the retainage pits.
Yeah.
Where those are gonna be and
Yeah.
whether you should move that back further.
I will talk to my homeowner about that. You know, I mean, we're pretty close to the rear yard setback as is, so I don't think moving it back another 10 feet or whatever the case may be is going to be that big of a deal. But I mean, ultimately, isn't that really kind of their prerogative?
The goal here is because, you know, they as our future residents or the house ever sells, if they were to do a pool,
Yeah, pool or
patio,
something.
a deck.
I don't think it's a bad suggestion at all.
You know-
And like I said, it's not that far.
Just to, yeah,
yeah.
it helps. for future issues.
Right.
And the other thing, sometimes with the rock pits, and if they do get full and based on how they work, it could be a pretty
Swampy.
swampy area right there,
Yeah.
marshy area. That's right in close proximity to
Yeah.
the active area of the.
I don't disagree. It's certainly not a bad suggestion, and I'll bring that up with them. My guess would be that, for the extra 10 feet of pipe, they'll probably bite on it, but
All right. Anything else?
And we're just deferring.
I think we're gonna defer it until we make sure that we get comments, back, but I think we've gone over all the other issues, that we're kind of talking about, so.
okay. No chance I could get you guys to go for a vote?
Yeah, we gotta be, I mean, if we had the
Residents.
residents already notified, ahead of time, but since it went out late, we gotta be respectful for them, and I wish we could, but,
Okay,
all right,
I understand. Okay,
very good.
all right.
Thank you.
Got
very
anything
much.
else for me?
I appreciate it. No,
All right, great.
great.
Just to recap, so we're gonna do the 2-foot returns on the sidewalls and the garage return wall. We're gonna do the Dutch hips on,
The entire, well, yeah, what's protruding? Not just 2 feet on the garage.
oh. Okay, so you want this,
The X.
okay,
That wasn't what the other house that we brought up. The other house we brought up didn't go all the way to the end.
No,
But
but
it protrudes much further. though.
Yeah, and I'm fine with going all the way to the end.
it's just, I mean, it's, it's 6 feet.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were saying. If you go to 6 feet, how about we go to 2?
Okay.
On the set edges.
okay. My only concern there is, are we still talking about planing that roof out? Because that would be kind of weird. Right?
Playing the roof 2 feet. Right.
Right. In which case I would, if the goal is to try and clad that projection, then I would just want to do that to the new porch line.
4 feet.
Because otherwise you're in the porch and there's no real context for it. It just arbitrarily breaks.
I get that. Tim, what do you think?
I think you should show what you think you should do on it, and the next one we could defer, we can make a decision based on the drawings, and then.
Okay.
And then we could change that with the staff.
Yeah, yeah.
Based on that.
Okay, fine.
Make sense?
Yep.
Very good.
Adding the windows like we talked about. Yes. Let's see. I think that was the bulk of it, wasn't it?
In the stormwater
The
pit.
stormwater pit.
And you mentioned the hip right before we got to.
Yeah, the hip roof.
Yeah, clipping the
Very good.
gables.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that the right term? Clip gables or hip?
I think Dutch hip is the right term.
Yep.
Yeah, what you're talking about is a gambrel roof, the old Dutch farmhouse thing.
Yeah,
a
that's
gambrel.
the one with with.
Yeah.
An angle change. in
Yeah,
it.
that's a gambrel.
Yeah.
So I think Dutch hip is the right term.
Okay. Thanks. All right. appreciate
Okay,
it. Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That's great. You too. All right, good, good, good. Let's move on now to old business, none. So item 4, other business, meeting minutes. Carlos,
Chairman, we do not have any meeting minutes, and our apologies on their.
no worries. We'll move on to 2024 comprehensive plan update.
We will set aside at our November meeting, we should just have this item here. And then we'll set time to kind of go over the comprehensive points, kind of talk about what we're incorporating into the report, and then talk about the tree preservation
Very good.
information, and then some of the other things we talked about, considering multiple districts or looking into a different zoning district, maybe for lots under 100 square feet, 100 feet in width.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting.
So,
I think that's
Okay.
good. Okay. So we'll move on to reports.
outside of the reports, Don always puts a list of calendar events that are coming up. The citywide garage sale is this weekend, and then right after that, if you got anything left, there's a great Olivet cleanout for recycling items, and then the week after that is the National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, And they also will have, in coordination with St. Louis Health, home medical equipment collection on that date. Harvest Fest is right around the corner. That's going to be October 26th. And then you see the schedule of meeting dates remaining there. And please remember, city offices are closed November 11th in observance for Veterans Day. I don't have any updates on pictures, and Don's going to talk about National Planning Month, but just a couple of updates on the progress that's going on. Audi's is going, it's pretty amazing as the building's coming around. They should be making applications for occupancy and submitting an application for a liquor license, probably within the next 30 to 45 days in there. And we're hoping for an early 2025 opening at the rate they're going. And there, Irvington Place, this is right behind Chevy's and CVS, access on the north through Alice Place. A lot of construction's going on. This is the views that's going on, but they are also moving a lot of earth right now as they're installing utilities. Centennial Greenway, if you get an opportunity, again, it is a very nice trail, really tranquil in certain areas as you walk through. It's not officially open yet, but it's pretty accessible. Keep in mind, as we talk about sustainability in our comprehensive plan, over 300 trees are going to be planted in conjunction with this trail along the trail network, which is, I think, great and appreciative of the Greenway for facilitating that. Domo and Great Heart Brewery are moving along. The Domo is pretty much framed up inside. I think they're supposed to be transferring ownership within this week in there, and I'm hoping that within a couple of weeks there may be something to go. Great Heart Brewery, all the brewing equipment now is in. I showed pictures to the council in there. We're scheduled to meet with the owner. He wants to get in there by mid-November to start brewing in there, because it does take about 2 months before it's accessible for the public. 9515 Dealman Road, there's a couple of things we need to catch up on that, but we haven't seen any applications for the new homes that come in. I know it was brought to my attention about the siltation fencing, and that would be something I'll follow up.
And do we have a code in place that commercial site or residential site has to have site fence up?
They should have that, the construction fencing at a minimum, and that's the plastic.
Yeah.
So I will talk to the inspectors on that.
Corrective
Thank you.
nuisance.
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 kids that are right down there that are literally on that street all the time playing ball. And that's right next to where they are.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a good thing.
All right. And that's all I have in there, unless there's any questions. We did have a quad state planning conference with Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. And we presented our comprehensive plan in one of the sessions with Shockey Consulting. Went really well in there. And then Monday night, I was at UMSO presenting our comprehensive plan to their chancellor certificate program. So a lot of people were impressed with the plan and the effort that was put in there. So.
I noticed one thing. You skipped right over the turkey trot.
Oh.
I got that.
You got that? All right. Because I'm thinking we should have a PCDC turkey trot team.
Tim and I are volunteers. He's got beer tent and I've got registration. So
All right,
I hope you
okay.
Join us there.
What's that?
Beer
captain.
captain. I'm registration
Nice.
captain.
Nice.
So,
It's impressive.
but we will be there. So we expect all of you now to be there at the mayor's there. So
Every year.
every year.
Yeah.
I brought my whole family from LA and New Zealand. They're all gonna come do it too. So excited.
And just real quickly, again, October is National Community Planning Month, and the council did read a proclamation declaring it National Community Planning Month. And then Don's been working on some activities in there.
Fantastic.
So we have a lot of good planning practices throughout town. And when I was looking into National Community Planning Month, it itself is to highlight the importance of good planning practices. So I think I went through this in our last meeting, but as planners and the things that we try to put together, it's hard to put that timeline together of, you know, as your plan meets fruition and as it goes on through time. But collector apps like what I've designed, and that, there we go, on the right slide. So is to collect examples of good planning or best planning practices throughout all of it. So these are our 6 categories. If you take, if you download on your phone the Quick Capture app through ArcGIS or Esri, then you can scan this QR code. You do have to download the app first, then scan, yeah. Or it will, if you can scan the QR code and then it'll have you download the app, and that's fine too. So you can do it either way. But if you scan the QR code, and if you have, it should, you know, work from your screen or wherever. But you can record up to 3 pictures per item. So and what you do after you download the app, you continue, you don't have to have a sign in or anything to go into it. You select the best planning practices workspace, which should be the only one that you can see. And then you can go around town anywhere throughout our 2.77 miles. It's pretty easy. You don't have to put a description if you don't want to, but basically you select a category, take the picture. You do have to be where you have your example. So like I had taken pictures on my phone of various things, and then I came back into the office thinking that I could just kind of cheat and, and put them in. But while there still is a way to cheat by correcting your location, um, it is designed to do on the fly. So there are some pictures that I took of the bio basin in Morrison Park along the trail. It was really nice to just basically walk up, say, I want to take a, you know, stormwater picture, snap it, put in a 1-sentence description, and that was it. You confirm, you confirm your location, you confirm your picture, and then you send the data. So as long as you send the data, you can send all your data at once. You can go out all day and collect, but make sure you send your data. Just don't skip that step, please.
When is this due?
You know, it is open for as long as we like. And truly, I'm looking to scrape together your work and put it into our database. So
So we're doing the work for you.
just a little.
Yeah.
No, there are quite a few spaces that are already filled in, and the map itself is quite decorated with spaces like the park amenities and things like that. I didn't want people to waste time going, oh, well, here's all of our park features when we already have all of those things. I don't want the low hanging fruit. I want you guys to do the hard work. But I'm sorry, please go ahead, Laura.
Library, there is a art free library over in Stoneleigh.
Can you use your microphone?
Sorry, I'm just used to being loud. So over in Stoneleigh Towers, there's a library, but it's an art one. Would that go under the free library?
I would think so. And we can just
Okay.
put it as an art library. Yeah,
Okay.
that's very cool. Even though there are, you know, the 6 select categories, there's plenty of room to move that around and change it all in post. So if there are other categories that come up from the descriptions, that's totally something that can happen.
If we see a place where there should be a crosswalk, can we take a picture of that?
See, I don't think that that's a bad
Has to be.
idea at all. As saying a, you know, proposed.
Yeah.
But and that we have, shape files of trails, things that, places that we've seen that where are potential things. So yeah, collecting your potential or your goal items is not unwanted. Thank you.
This is great. Yeah, nice use of technology.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Missy.
I guess I need a tutorial because I downloaded stuff and I'm just not getting it. It says my workspace and I hit three little bars over there and I'm not getting it, but I want to get it. So
Yeah, I got it too.
I feel like I'm an old lady and I need a little bit of education or whatever you want to call it. All right. So, yes, Carlos always does a great job summarizing things. I will just share a few things on my end. Yesterday I attended the Municipal League Executive Board meeting, and we have prioritized numerous legislative priorities that have been identified. Some are continuing from last year's or our legislative bodies attempts to usurp local municipal controls, revenues, things of that nature. Some deal with sunshine law. But in October, we will have our municipal league, municipal cities meeting at Brentwood at their new rec center. And we will present those legislative priorities to the body for them to vote and confirm that they support that the legislative priorities of 2024, 2025 legislator session. Again, I want to remind everybody, October 21st is the Shred Electronic Recycling, and it's at Stacy Park. Limited time from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. November 13th will be coffee with the mayor, and I will have David Moons, who is I'll call him the project manager over Turkey Trot since the Springers moved back to New York and put a lot of responsibility and roles on David Moon, but he had a good mentor in Mr. Springer. So David will be the guest on November 13th. The Coffee with the Mayors do occur at 5 Oaks on Warson. And with regards to the Turkey Trot on November 28th, this is the 11th year, double ones. 100% of the proceeds go to the Harvey Kornblum Food Pantry. We've given over $130,000 already in the last 10 years. Packet pickup. You have 3 opportunities for packet pickup. That is November 26th at 5 Oaks from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. November 27th from 8 until 5 p.m. at 5 Oaks. And then on Turkey Trot Day, the esteemed volunteers here will be dealing with packet pickup from 7 o'clock a.m. until 7:45 because the race begins at 8 o'clock. Pretty much that's all I have to report. I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate the volunteering that you do and the good conversations that are being had with regards to what is going to be permanent fixtures within our community. So thank you much. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Missy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Jack?
I know I'm probably digging myself in a hole saying this, but I promise however many sets of meeting minutes, you'll get all of those at the next meeting on November 7th, which is also my birthday. So
Oh,
we'll have a great PCDC meeting on my birthday. Yeah, and let's keep it short because I'd like to go out afterwards.
yeah.
Okay.
We'll make it work. All right, good. There's no other discussion. We'll close this meeting at 8:20.